that sort of a fear, I just would kind of put that in under the title of a fear of inadequacy. You know, it's not feeling like you're not good enough. You're not as good as you think you should be, not as good as you want to be. You're somehow lacking. And that is extremely common, extremely common. And we get that mostly from our childhood. And we get it in our childhood because our parents generally don't have time for us because they're busy. These days, you know, both people both adults in the family work. Then when they come home, they've got other things to do. They got to take care of kids. And they have this idea, not now, go away. You know, I'm busy now, leave me alone. And they tend to only give attention to their children when it's negative attention. As long as the children are off playing and not creating a problem, then they just leave them alone. And as soon as they create a problem, well, then they go fuss at them. So from the child's point of view, life is benign until they interact with an adult, and then an adult comes and fusses at them. So the adults are always telling them, you're not doing it right. You're not doing it good. You're too loud. You're too this. You're too that. You know, you need to go to bed now. You need to do this. So parents are always finding fault with their children. And from a child's viewpoint, that's like 80% of their interaction with the adult is the adult telling them that they're wrong. Well, in a busy household, that's life, right? Mom and dad come home from work and, you know, then they have dinner to make and dishes to wash and things to do. And they have children running around that want their attention. You know, they got dogs to feed and cats to put out. And it never ends, you know, right up into the time that everybody crashes, and then it starts again the next day. So that has helped us create a whole bunch of people who have this sense of being wrong, not being good enough, not being as good as they should be. Because when children get that negativity from their parents, they internalize it as not being good enough, not doing it right. They don't think, oh man, my parents are a lot of trouble. My parents are always being negative to me. They don't think of that. They think that I'm wrong. I'm not doing the things that I should be doing. So we tend to do that to our kids, and our kids feel this way. And of course, they grow up and now they're 50 or 60 or 70, and they still feel inadequate. And it's a very common problem. And, you know, you talk about people who have this syndrome of being the imposter. Well, those are the ones that basically accept that feeling. They realize it and accept it and internalize it. The majority don't accept it. They reject it. They deny it. And how they deal with it is through denial and saying, I am too worthy. And every time they hear something that makes them feel unworthy, like somebody criticizes them, they get angry. So these are the people who push back, angry, pushy, my way, because that's just a compensation for not being adequate. You see, so when you feel not adequate, you can be a shrinking violet, you can be somebody suffering with inadequacy, or you can be a bully and push people around and be demanding and get angry. All of those really end up being the same thing. It's not feeling like you're as good as you think you should be, that you really aren't much. You're just a little bit of nothing, you know. So what do we do about it? One, you're all ready to step one if you realize that this is a problem that you need to deal with. Because, like I say, if you're in denial, you're further away from dealing with it. You know, the first step is to realize that it's there. The second step is to realize that it's not true. It's your opinion. It's the way you feel. And you've learned that bias. You've learned that that way to feel, but that it's not based in any facts, although you can drag up lots and lots of evidence for it. That's because when you feel that way, you interpret your reality in terms of that. You interpret your reality. So when somebody says, you could have done that better, you think, oh yeah, failed again, wasn't good enough. Instead of, oh, well, thanks. How could I do that better? Do you have any suggestions? You see, that's another way to interpret it. One way, oh, there's proof of my inadequacy. And the other way, there's no inadequacy at all. And you're open to doing things better. So you go through life creating what you fear. So you constantly interpret things as proof that you're inadequate instead of interpreting things differently. You see, so once you get all that in your intellect, that maybe helps you get focus, but it doesn't fix the problem because it's not an intellectual problem. It's a problem at the being level. It's an intuitive problem. It's a problem at the feeling level, not at the intellectual level. So you can do all the intellectual gymnastics in the world. You can write down things like, I'm a wonderful person, and pin that on your refrigerator and repeat it 20 times every day. It still isn't going to work if that's just your intellect. You need to get that message of being positive down at the being level. Well, repetition does help get things down at the being level. So that, if you repeat that 20 times a day, that may actually help a little bit. But the thing you need to do is to have an intent not to feel that way. When you start to feel that way, just say, no, that's not true. I'm not inadequate. I'm not perfect. I don't know everything about everything, but that's okay. If somebody suggests that I could do something better, that's good. I'll take that suggestion. I won't take that as proof of my inadequacy. So yes, I can grow. Yes, I make mistakes. I'm not a perfect person, but all of those mistakes don't mean that I'm inadequate. They just mean I'm not a perfect person that knows everything. You see, you start interpreting it differently. And then have this idea that I don't want to feel that way. And when you start feeling yourself inadequate, stop. Take a deep breath and say, not true. I'm a growing person. I'm a growing person in progress, as are we all. Everybody is a growing person in progress. I have things to learn, so let me learn them. How can I do that better? Instead of, oh no, failed again. Yeah, that's me. You see, there's just two different ways, two different attitudes toward the exact same situation. So have that awareness that when you feel that inadequacy, you stop it and say, no, that's not so. I do have things to learn. I do make mistakes. I won't always do everything the best way or the right way. So that's life. That's the way it is when you're growing up and being a person. And it'll always be that way. That's the way it is for everybody. There isn't anybody that's perfect and does everything always right. That's not how we learn. We learn by making mistakes. So we relish those, you could have done that better. We'd like to hear that because that means, oh, okay, maybe I can learn something here. So we see all those criticisms as positive, not as negative. So you see, it's just a shift of attitude. And you can make that shift with an intent to not take it as being inadequate, as an intent to say, all right, I can do better. I'm a person in progress, and I'm learning and I'm growing, and I'll do that better. And then you feel good about it. All right, I learned something today. You see, so take it that way. People who feel inadequate tend to have this need to be perfect, because if they're perfect, that kind of pushes the inadequacy out of the picture. And as soon as they make a mistake, oh, now, they feel terrible. Well, stop having to be perfect. Allow yourself to make mistakes. Mistakes are natural. Mistakes are the way we learn. If you don't ever make a mistake, you'll never learn anything. And if you always feel inadequate about it so that you don't go back and fix it, because after all, you're just inadequate, there's no point trying to fix it, you'll always be this way, well, then you don't learn anything either. You see, so you need to break out of that and use just basically force of will. That was, you feel that coming on, reject it and look for something to learn. Look for some way to grow, some positive way that you can add to it. And realize it's going to be a slow process. You're not going to change overnight. It's going to be something that's going to change over months and maybe years. But if you keep focused on it, I'd say within 6 months, you'll see a difference. And within a year, you'll be mostly past it. You won't feel that way. Your attitude will be completely different and you'll feel more positive. Your relationships will get better. Everything will get better. Your work, your boss, everything will get better in your life just because you get rid of that fear of being inadequate. And like I say, I bet 95% of the population is walking around with that fear of being inadequate. It's just that most of those people that have that fear are not aware of it, as you are. Therefore, they're not really in a position to change it or do anything about it. They're just going to be aggressive or pushy or demanding, or, it's got to be my way, because if it's not my way, that means that I'm not right. And I can't stand it if I'm not right. And that makes me angry if you think I'm not right, you see. So they aren't so likely to be able to make the change because they haven't yet accepted that it's part of them. It's the way they are, that inadequacy is just an issue they need to get over, not something they have to live with. Yeah. So I took a little extra time with that because it is so pervasive, that most of the population will get something out of the discussion. So it's a good thing to have brought up because it really is a problem for most people in our culture. We kind of have that attitude about, children are better seen but not heard. Children need to go off and, we only interact with them when they're doing something wrong. And then we come down on them and explain to them why they're wrong and tell them what they need to do right. And other than that, we leave them alone. Next time we go talk to them, it's because they're wrong again, or because they need to do something that they don't want to do. We need them to go to bed. We need them to get up and get dressed. We need them to do this. We need them to do that. And there's hardly any time where we just sit around and be with them and they're fine and they're okay just the way they are. We always find them needing to do something other than what they're doing. So it's not surprising that our children learn that they're not doing it right. Anything they do is going to be wrong. That's just what we do to our children. And one day we'll grow out of that as we grow up and realize that just spending positive time with kids, telling them that they're doing good things, that's worth a lot. But it's got to be sincere. It can't be that thing that somebody goes out and does a horrible job at something and you praise them for it. Oh, well, that was really wonderful. They know it wasn't. And if you tell them it's wonderful when it isn't, they know you're not telling the truth. And now they can't really trust you anymore because you tell lies. You don't tell the truth. So now even if you tell them that's a good job, they won't believe it. You see, so telling them that it's wonderful when it's not is not helpful. But they don't have to do much to be wonderful. All they have to do is exist, just sit there and hold them for a little bit. And that's enough for being wonderful. They don't actually have to go out and, lift a heavy weight or do something amazing. They're wonderful just because they exist. And that's something that we generally don't have time for in our busy lives, unfortunately.